has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Welcome to episode 19 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. Like the Cats, has David Wagner used up his 9 lives? Coming up, we'll discuss the current goings-on within the club. How should we be approaching this January window? Dean Hoyle released a defiant statement. 5 games since the last podcast. We'll take a brief look back. And also have a chat about player confidence and other things raised via the people of Twitter. Yes, welcome and Happy New Year to all Huddersfield Town fans from all of us at the podcast. The big man is back in the big chair with the heated massage function, fully engaged. Danny G, fresh from lassoing some Cockney teenagers on Red Dead Online, is here, as is the original Huddersfield Town podcaster, Jamie White. I only hope that he's got a lovely singing voice today because he's filling in for El Coso Loco, who is once again in Spain. Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello, good to be here.
Is this chair a bit loud?
It doesn't sound like a podcast right now. It sounds like something else.
I wasn't told about any singing.
I knew that guy.
Yeah,
right. Okay, so speaking of Spain, thanks to our sponsors, bidorbygolf.com. If you fancy a golfing break in Spain, give them a whirl and check them out online at www.bidorbygolf.com. So today's agenda is pretty much Twitter-driven. The first Twitter comment comes from HTFC Dukes, who says, how many consecutive losses would force a change and maybe considering a change of name to Andy couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo? I don't think we'll be changing, but thanks for that. So, guys, since we last recorded the podcast, there have been 5 games, 5 defeats. Southampton at home. I don't think you've suppressed that from the memory bank quite yet, have you, Neil?
I'm just about, yeah, to be honest. Thanks for that. Brought it back up. It was grim, to say the least. A very, on paper, winnable game. They're no great shakes, and they murdered us, to be honest. It was a pretty depressing afternoon.
It looked a little bit rudderless, didn't we, Jamie? And to be fair, Billing scored from range straight down the middle of the net. And then, just as we looked like we were going to get back into it, another defensive error from someone who's been so reliable over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was a disappointing result, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't hugely surprised that obviously had a change in manager just a few games before. Pulled off a couple of really impressive results, and we were in the midst of our slump, which has obviously continued ever since. So, very disappointing result. I think just one of many over the past couple of months. And yeah, you alluded to the mistake by Schindler there for the final goal for Southampton. I think there's 2 opportunities for him to get rid of the ball, and another opportunity for him to, play the game a little bit and go down and get a free kick. He's done neither, and they've scored the 3rd goal. So
he's too handsome to hang out to dry, so he won't do just that.
That's enough, is it?
To be fair, there were 3 defensive errors from 3 centre-backs in that game, which did us. But on to Man United.
If we're completely honest, though, with Schindler on that one, he's probably done more than enough over his Town career to let one slide, even though it was at a crucial point of a big game. But
I'd say that one. First time we missed Moy as well, because he'd been missing against Newcastle, but in that one we controlled the game up until, they had that breakaway, but against Southampton we just didn't control it at all. And going 2-0 down is a surprise for us, because we're not normally 2 behind, are we? Normally 1 behind. But
yeah, it's usually enough as well.
Yeah.
And then on to Man United, Neil. More zest, more attacking flavour, a lot of missed chances, and out of the 5, we probably had more chances to win at Old Trafford than in the other games combined.
I'll be honest, it's the one that completely flummoxed me, because we've played so tepidly and timidly against Southampton, and then they've gone away at Man U, and to be fair, we've had a right good go at them, in my opinion. We've put out an attacking-ish side. We've created, Congolo minimum has got to hit target. The one that Match of the Day didn't show was one where Billing went clean through last minute at first half. Could have squared it for a 2-yard tap in for Depoitre, chose to try and beat De Gea near post.
There's no such
Put
thing
it
as
wide.
a 2-yard tap in for Depoitre.
That is very true.
There
after
was
watching the
against Bristol
game.
City, yeah.
But, you know, the option was there for that. Then Depoitre's declined an opportunity to hit a clear shot from penalty spot towards us.
He's still trying to control that ball.
Yeah, he is. And then, you know, he's trying to bring it back across. He said a confident Depoitre last season just hits that first time. But we've had a real go at them. And then you can accept that it's Man U. And they've obviously, Solskjaer was there. They've had a bit of a renaissance under him. You know, sort of shackles are off there. So to come away with a 3-1, not bad. It was a game after that totally sent me dizzy, to be honest, because the Fulham one is arguably, for me, the worst of the lot.
We'll start there. And as soon as I saw the team, I think this is the first time since David Wagner's become manager, I've looked at it and gone, what are you doing?
Yeah.
3 centre-backs doesn't need 2 defensive midfielders. The lineup for me against the worst defence in the Premier League was, I was going to say conservative, but that's probably really, really kind.
Well, when we've put out such an attacking lineup, or a more attacking lineup, away at Man U, created 3 or 4 very, very good opportunities to then go and put out such a defensive lineup, like you say, against worst defence in league. I saw that team, and it's the first time I've actually been really, really mad about a team selection.
Same.
And I just knew you knew what were coming. And from watching the game, well, it unfolded, didn't it? We created the square root of nothing.
Yeah, I think the reliance on 3-5-2 or whatever kind of variety of it has been one of Wagner's biggest downfalls in the past, in that run of games. I think at home, almost exceptional of the opposition, we should be playing 4-2-3-1. It worked well for us last season. It worked well in the promotion season, and away at teams like Fulham and Bristol City, I know we did do, but we should absolutely be confident in playing that formation. Yeah. He's gone too far the other way to rely on that 3-5-2 formation.
I'll argue that, because we've been playing the 4-2-3-1 since January at home for the majority, and we've scored. You take out the Bournemouth game, and we've got 5 goals in 18 games or something. Southampton was probably the 6th. And whatever system we play, we don't put people in the box. So for me, systems, I'm going to go Lee Clark again, but systems don't matter if you don't put anybody near the box. It just doesn't matter. And
there was a stat came out this week, one that somebody's retweeted, about Mounier has won more aerial duels in the Premier League than any other player.
But there's no one near
It's the
him.
most pointless stat that's ever been made. We all know that Mounier is bloody good in the air. It's obvious. That were obvious from the first goal he scored for us at Crystal Palace in the first game at Premier League. You could tell this lad is cracking in the air, but aimless balls to him with no pace, or just stuff that's flighted up to him. Yeah, he'll win him, but he's got pretty much zero chance of doing out with him, because there is nobody anywhere near him. And if the nearest man to him ever now is Pritchard, and unfortunately how we play now, Pritchard isn't the answer.
So going back to that Fulham game, you know, I watched that, and it just seemed to be tap, side, tap, back side, tap, and we didn't get anywhere, and that's highlighted by Mounier having 4 touches in the entire first half. And the fear of losing seems to have overtaken the team, as well as confidence, and that doesn't get fixed for me by a formation change. It's just so irrelevant.
It's down to mindset now. And the mindset is it just looks completely wrong. They all look absolutely shot of confidence, and that's why I was disappointed with the team he picked. It was an half decent team he picked at Bristol that should be able to go to a championship side and do a job, but for me that was a chance to play your strongest side and try and get a win from anywhere. And at the moment, a win from anywhere is what we need, and that was a perfect
surely
chance.
You've got to keep Mounier in that team after the Burnley game for that Bristol one, surely. He's had that 3-game suspension, he's had his rest.
Yeah.
Why put Depoitre back in there?
And he's just scored.
Because the thing is, if Depoitre scores a couple there, I bet he's dropped for next game anyway, because
that's the plan at the moment.
Yeah, he should be the third choice striker by the end of this month, but why are we playing him against Bristol City? I don't get it.
It made no. I made the same point on Twitter. It just made no sense.
For me, Depoitre's third choice striker already. We've only got two.
It made no sense.
Hi guys, sorry I can't be with you tonight. Disappearing again out of the country. It's kind of ironic. I was just thinking, when was the last time I went away? And it was just after we beaten Wolves. Wow, how different things were then. Just coming away from that, I think we were 14th in the league, Brighton at home. I remember watching the game on the stream. I don't want to depress anyone before we've even spoke, but wow, who could have predicted what's happened since then? But yeah, Bristol City, to me, the lowest point of the season so far, and we've had a few lows. Coming into the game, we wanted to see, quite a few of us in the cat wanted to see kind of, what's Wagner going to do here? Is he going to come out fighting? Are Huddersfield Town going to go with two wingers? Are they really going to have a go at Bristol City? We knew Bristol probably mix and match teams, speaking to the locals before the game. Looked at the Town team, obviously we didn't know if Puncheon was available. Turns out that he was, and must admit, when I saw the team news about 4:30, thought, yeah, okay. No surprise, Puncheon's available and straight in, really. We are struggling. Again, Depoitre in instead of Mounier. Still don't get that, but obviously it's kind of, this is what it seems to be, one game in for one and one game out for the other. And off we went. The game started. First thing to notice, the Town fans, I don't know what the official kind of figure given out, but there must have been a good 600-700 there. Fantastic support. But we watched in the gas. The first half was, to me, the worst of the season by a country mile. Anyone who watched it, obviously, on the stream and at the ground, it were terrible. It were absolutely awful. I think what worried me most of all, really, we had guys there who, just lacking quality. Zanka, what has happened to the guy? He seems to have just fallen off a cliff. You're passing the ball out time after time. Dreadful. Thought, Diakabe, he just looked a stranger, which is probably where it's been, most of the season, obviously been back to France. And it was the same old, passing across the back. Hogg was as good as a centre-back, to Stankovic, back to Hogg. It was absolute dross. And to be honest with you, Depoitre, it's 45 minutes. I just don't get the man, whether he's kind of just given up or what. Because his display at Arsenal, we talked about in the pod, he was really, really hungry, really up for it. Man United, I thought he played well. Obviously should have scored, but Saturday, wow. It was a terrible performance. And deservedly hauled off at half-time. I mean, it's always a good gauge, I think, with his support, when there's people heading down for a beers after 30 minutes. People would have had enough. It was absolute rubbish. And Bristol were not much better. Obviously headed against the bar, their guy, and should have been in front probably at half-time. But so you're thinking at half-time, what's he going to do? And to be fair to him, he came out, brings on Pritchard, brings on Mounier, and yeah, we advanced towards the goal without looking, I mean, the ball goes to the wing. We just seem to play one way, nothing down the middle, really. Really, really poor. Obviously the lob from Mounier, but the guy, to be fair, he loved the keeper, but the guy centre-half cleared it with ease. And Pritchard, again a great chance, but this is where we're at, just slashed it. But after that, absolutely nothing. You're looking for Premier League quality. We know we're poor, but there was nothing there. It was dreadful. But to be fair, I didn't see Bristol scoring. I thought it was destined for another game, which, wow, that would have been an hard sell for the commercial team, but lo and behold, Bristol create a chance and probably deserved to win, to be honest with you. I thought Aimer could have done better, beating it his near post, and wow, it was just abject silence in the away end. I remember looking across at Wagner, just arms folded. I don't know, the spark just didn't seem to be there. It was so gutting. I think a lot of us, I mean, I personally would like a bit of a cup run. I think the season's dying. They kept it going, but a lot of people probably just wanted to see something's better. Some hope, but to me it was a low. It was really low. The second half a bit better than the first, but wow, it couldn't have been any worse. And bear in mind, we're playing Championship opposition, which we're probably going to play next year. If that's a gauge, then some of them players need to be moved on fast. There was only one shining light. It's incredible, really. There's a lot of negativity about the signing, and probably me included. 32-year-old Jason Puncheon never played any football for a long time. Easily Huddersfield's best player. Didn't look fit to me. I suppose how could he be? He's hardly played. He was trying to make things happen in the engine room. He was threading balls through for non-existent runs, which you can get used to that, Jason. But yeah, I like what I saw with him. Desperate though, isn't it, that when you've got a guy on loan who comes in and just like head and shoulders above anything, really. But yeah, really depressing. Coming away from the ground, felt so sorry for those that, I mean, we had night on the town, so we had a good time. But those that just came on the bus, you know, I know it was only £1 or whatever it was, but what a dejection. Honestly, don't know where we go from here, to be honest with you. And I think Neil Warnock, if he was sat in the stand, be licking his lips on that evidence on Saturday. So depressing. You're looking for people to put their hands up for shirts. There was nothing. And yeah, out of the FA Cup we go.
We went 4-2-3-1, didn't we, against Burnley? Great. Another flash at Old Trafford. We saw a little flash from Mbenza. We've seen another little flash. Probably not seeing quite enough, but we're starting to see there is something there that we can maybe unlock with him. That's a great ball he's put in for Mounier. And then from going 1-0 up, and they probably had a couple of chances whereby they could have been 1-0 up as well. But from that position of strength, you can see that lack of confidence and how we've contrived to lose that game. Do you apportion any blame to Schindler for not realising he'd been yellow carded, or do you put that to Mike Dean, Danny?
Well, I missed Burnley game by choice, which is the first time I've done that in my adult life. It was basically because of that Fulham game, but I had a bad day at work in terms of getting stuck on motorway. I was rushing around and I thought, why am I even doing this? Because I'm not looking forward to it. I'd rather just take dog out for a walk. I'll listen to it and I'll follow it on Twitter. So that's what I did. So I can't tell you a great deal about that game, I'm afraid.
I'll throw that to you then, Jamie.
Yeah, I think both challenges, yellow card challenges, frankly, and you know that results in a red card, like it or not. I know there's the whole situation around Mike Dean being this celebrity ref and demanding the attention, but I think it just goes to show the fact that Wagner didn't argue against the decision. You know, straight away he had the opportunity in the post-match interview to say even something about the fact that they were, maybe one of them wasn't a yellow card, but he didn't. He was quite happy with the decision. I don't think anyone since then has really argued, to be honest. I thought what was a bit more ridiculous was the sending off for Brady for Burnley. At the time, I thought that was very harsh, but on watching the replays, you can tell why he's made that decision. At the time, I just thought he was trying to even things up, and I was laughing, really. But yeah, it was a dangerous tackle in hindsight after seeing it.
So Neil, we've all played football here, don't we? And when a teammate gets booked, one of the first things that, as me as a goalkeeper, you as a centre-back, one of the first things that you would say is, you've been booked, watch what you're doing. It's just natural, and it shows the lack of confidence, and I don't see Zanka speaking to anybody on the pitch anymore. He's a bit of a leader last year. His head is down, and him playing Mitrovic onside for Fulham's last-minute winner was really poor, you know, in terms of following. I'm a big fan of Zanka. I think he's a great guy, but his head's down. And should people around Schindler be doing more? Or is Schindler ultimately responsible for a stupid red card?
Yeah, he is, because he should know he's being booked. But at the same time, if you're in a team that's got leaders in it, if Tommy Smith's playing in that game and he's captain that day, I can guarantee you Tommy Smith lets Schindler know full well that he's on a yellow. There's no doubt in that. It's all about communication. These are Premier League footballers. I'd expect that from lads I used to manage and play with in Sunday League. That's minimum requirement. You pass on information. Anything that could have been missed, you pass it on. It's just basic. These are basic stuff, and it's not stuff that you should have to teach on a training ground. So that just shows me at the moment the total lack of leadership, direction, confidence that's in that team. And the one thing that should have galvanised them, Lossell's pulled off that penalty save away at Fulham. There's less than 10 minutes left. That could have been and should have been a turning point for our season. That's when we should have been saying, right, that is, you know, we've got out of jail here. Because it was a penalty, there's no argument about it. It was a penalty. We've got away with it. Lossell's a good save. But then we didn't push on from that. We just sort of, and then how that goal occurred, it was just shambolic from, I mean, I know Billings made an ash of it, but that's basically on edge of other penalty area.
It's a tired effort.
And then, but then within 10 seconds, there's still other people in other areas. But within 10 seconds, it's in net at other end. And it just shows a complete lack of confidence, leadership, communication, all those things that you need, all those things that should be minimum for a Premier League football team. And unfortunately, as sad as it sounds, we look anything but a Premier League team at the moment.
Town play down the left and Moyes stayed onside. Here's Mounier! 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League.
Take to Twitter because we've had some comments regarding player confidence and HTFC images, Claire Taylor and at DT_PLC. I don't think that's Dave Threlfall-Sykes, but who knows. I've all kind of gone along the same lines and sort of said, so I'll aim this at you, Jamie. Do you think players should all, because you're in the Cowshed Law, you're one of the ones vocally backing the team, do you think all players should walk around the pitch at the end of the game, just not a few win, lose or draw? Should it do them good? Does that show, the fact that they're not doing that, does that show some form of disunity, do you think? Or does it show that confidence is down? Because I watched Burnley and Jonathan Hogg stormed off it with face of thunder, and I can understand that. But some of them are just kind of tropesing off, heads down. Should they get together at the end, win, lose or draw, and do that lap?
I think...
Does it matter?
Does it matter? Probably not in the grand scheme of things. I think that they should, if they can, find it in themselves to think that that's the right thing to do, then I think it would be appreciated by the fans, because obviously the fans are there largely through thick or thin. I mean, we've seen some absolute rubbish this season, and we saw quite a lot of rubbish last season as well. To say that we're still getting 20,000 plus crowds is pretty admirable. It's very difficult to put yourself in the mind of a footballer after slogging it out for 93, 95 minutes, having just lost for the 8th, 9th time running, to then want to do a lap of the pitch and applaud the fans. You don't really...
Thing is, though,
you can never say that you were in the mood for that.
If I saw Jonathan Hogg storming back into the dressing room, I think I'd fancy staying out for a couple of minutes, to be fair to you.
Yeah. So Claire backs up with saying that it's mostly Lossell and Zanka that do that, and I think we always say that those two are pretty much the two nicest guys around.
They are, they're nice blokes, but people read so much into stuff, to be honest. I think it's one of them where if you've played football or been involved at any level of football, if you've just lost, and if you're on a run like we are at the moment, where you lose, the last thing I'm not saying on a Sunday morning you do a lap at pitch anyway, but the last thing you want to do is even go and socialise with other team after the game as a Sunday league side. The last thing you want to do is go hear them in showers next changing room, celebrating whatever else. So these blokes are getting paid a lot of money to play football, and I can fully understand why they want to get in changing room, get in the shower, have a rant. I mean, I don't think for a minute it's a silent dressing room after the game. I think there's plenty being said. These are all professional men. These are grown men who want the same thing. They all want to win games of football, and it will hurt them, whatever anybody says.
Yeah, there seemed to be a bit of a delay after the Bristol City game with Wagner doing his post-match stuff, so there's obviously a few truths been said.
And let's hope there is. And I want him going in there, and whether it's his way or not, at some point, somebody needs a good shouting out, don't they? It needs somebody to get a grip of it, whether that be Wagner, whether it be Beulah, whether it be Andy Hughes, whoever. It needs somebody to get a grip of them and get them up for it again, because they look forlorn, they look completely lost. Doesn't seem to be much plan.
Neil, speaking of plans, so the last 3 comments from Twitter on that surround the lack of your mate Andy Farrell, or our mate Andy Farrell, if you like, has said the lack of where's the lack of terrier spirit gone? Where's the fear? The lack of fear that got us to where we are. Jodie Calvert says, how can I feel so confused with emotions about my team all at once?
And just how she feels.
Yeah, I think we all do, yeah. And Richard Crowther says, we appear to have stopped playing the pressing game against the sides we have a reasonable chance of beating, but continue to do it against the better sides like Old Trafford. Do you think that's another sign of confidence, just to wrap this section up?
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
But he can't win that ball. He's going to chase the keeper down. He's charged it down. And he's scored! Hayford has just scored for the most bizarre goal you'll ever see. The goalkeeper raced out of his area to clear the ball. Hayford charged it down. It's hit his back and it's bobbled in. And Town have got what they deserve.
What was very welcoming was on New Year's Eve. We had a speech from the chairman, Dean Hoyle, so it was genuinely great to hear from Dean. Happy New Year to the chairman and his family, and hopefully 2019 is a great year for all of us on and off the pitch. He produced a statement, and I'm only going to pick out a certain section of the statement because that's pertinent to our next point. And Dean has said, For my part, I can only say this. I will not allow us to sleepwalk into relegation. I can promise you that we will fight with everything we have. That is my minimum expectation. Behind the scenes, we are constantly challenging everything that we do in a quest to improve. In all departments, people are under pressure to deliver. That's how you get better. The January transfer window opens tomorrow, and that's a big talking point in the media and for our fans. Understandably, we will be active in this window, but not at the financial risk of the club. There is a balance to be struck for sure, and we will strive to get that balance between risk and reward correct. We all know how far this club has come in recent years, and I know every fan is proud of that, but that cannot be an excuse for not doing everything we can to be successful in the here and now. And it was a great statement. I think fans are getting slightly apathetic at certain points in one angle, angry in the other, and that was a very much needed statement. Dean Ball says, was it wrong of Hoyle to say early season that DW, David Wagner, should not be sacked or would not be sacked no matter what? Surely there's no better incentive to perform knowing your job is at risk. But I think that was last season, really.
He's a proud man, is Wagner. There's no way that he'd mosey in and out of work, sort of non-committal. He'll still be giving it absolutely everything, and he will be as cheesed off as everybody else, I can guarantee that.
So I loved Dean's fighting statement. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We all needed to hear that. So we'll link that in with the January window that opened on the 1st as well.
Barnes with the flick, Johnson with the turn, Johnson with the goal, and the game turned on its head.
For me, it was timely, it was needed. As we say, some supporters are starting to lose themselves a little bit, aren't they? With 9 defeats in a row, I think all of us struggle to rationalise that in the heat of the moment sometimes, and a lot of people make a lot of noise. We make noise. But there is that danger of apathy coming back. However, it does feel a little bit like we've maybe sleepwalked into the January transfer window. I know it's not easy to nail transfer targets in January. The prices are inflated. Players are less likely to be available. But we've known that we've needed a forward for months. We won't sleepwalk into relegation was what he said, but should we be backing up statements like that with actions as well as fighting words? And should we have had something lined up by now in terms of a forward, Neil?
I'd say yeah, but my only... Yeah, and I'm a cheese off as everybody else. I think we should have had somebody lined up ready to walk in the door prior to the Burnley game, because we've known for a long time where the shortfall is.
I don't think... I think you can line somebody up, like you can line Puncheon up, who's the club's prepared to let him to leave. But I think when you talk about somebody like Mopey and so on at Brentford, if they don't want him to go... I understand that. We might have lined him up and might have put a bid in, but they're going to hold out until end of January to up his price. So.
Well, my second point on that was the problem we've got is where we are in the league, the situation with the points, whereas what are we, 8 points behind safety? Mm-hmm. So that's minimum 3 games that we need to win on the bounce, hoping everybody above us gets nothing. We've won 2 games all season. How attractive is that to a player coming in? You're going to come in on a Premiership wage. It's going to be written into your contract that in probably looking very likely in 3 or 4 months' time, that wage is going to be cut because you're going to be relegated out of Championship. Can we buy Championship players now ready for next season? How do you sell that to a player? We're buying you for next season. It looks like we're going down, but we're buying you for next season. We are in an awful situation for buying at the moment, in my opinion.
Then can we not loan? Because you're allowed 2
absolutely.
Two domestic,
we can loan.
Unlimited foreign.
But then you're linked with a loan for Solanke for God knows how long, and everyone thinks, because of Liverpool, including myself, you're thinking that's got to be one of the easiest loans you're ever going to make. And then all of a sudden, Bournemouth are paying 19 million quid for a player who can't kick a ball till February. Which, that's what we're up against. You know, it's not as easy. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it'd been great to have somebody through the door, but I think because of the situation at the moment, I think it is becoming increasingly difficult as a sell.
Yeah, I mean, we need people to come in. We need a player to come in and play the very next game, centre forward, and start scoring goals immediately. There's very few strikers out there who qualify, who are going to come to Huddersfield Town in the current position, who are going to come to Huddersfield Town flat out. And then you've got the likes of Solanke going for £19 million to Bournemouth. And he could flop. He could flop in the next 12 months. Yeah. And Bournemouth are just splashing the cash like there's no tomorrow, and there'll be likes of Fulham and Wolves will do exactly the same.
Cinderella story.
Yeah, I just don't know how we as a club can attract that type of player who qualifies as the kind of player that we need, which is someone to come in and start scoring. You know, we need a 20 goal a season striker. Yeah.
And to be honest, and this will probably get shot down by a lot of people on Twitter, but I'm going to say it anyway. For me, we've already got a striker in that club who, if we played to his strengths a lot more, wouldn't be on the situation when he's only got one goal now. Or he would have at least had the chance to create more for us if we had more bodies in around. So I think a lot of it is down to line-up formations, how we've played, how we've not utilised such a good asset. And let's be fair, Mounier is a big asset for me.
So could we maybe bring in a number 10, unlike Pritchard, who can get forward and advance past him? And this is obviously a fantasy signing because we don't know who exactly we're in for, but you need to use your connections within football. And we'll go back to Liverpool, and we've seen that, for example, I know this is not going to happen, but Adam Lallana is available apparently too, and Fenerbahce have been linked with him. As David Wagner, do you not say, Jurgen, old friend, old pal, you've done nothing for me since Danny Ward, I need this? And do the club push that boat? He's obviously going to be on it towards 100 grand a week, isn't he? Would you, as the chairman, would you sanction something like that and break the wage structure to bring him in temporarily until June and take that possible hit that maybe one or two will be unhappy?
Possibly, but if you're Adam Lallana,
that's the other question, yeah. But
are you going to go want to play for a team who's looking absolutely sunk?
It depends how you sell it. For 6 months, he could put himself in the window and be signed in the summer for someone decent if he performs. He
could, but to me, Adam Lallana's
somebody like that.
If we stay up, long shot, I get that. But if we stayed up and somebody like Lallana's still out of the picture at Liverpool, I'd see that as a next season possible start of the season 6-month loan. Mm-hmm. If we've stayed up. But at the moment, I just think the situation that we're in,
to be fair,
if you're a player, you're looking and thinking, nah, you're all right.
Yeah. You could look at Sturridge last season at West Brom. I mean, they looked nailed on for relegation, but I mean, he didn't do anything there, did he? So he got injured after about...
He didn't do anything last night. I think he moved about 5 yards.
If rumours are to believe, they actually upped his wage from what we're getting at Liverpool to secure him on loan. So we're getting about £120,000 a week.
I mean, we're going to be very, very prudent as a club because of the history of the club in terms of the administration. Hoyle has said,
right, to be fair. It's right.
You know, there's a quote from that statement that you read out, Matt, that said, you know, they're never going to put the club at risk. Can't remember the exact wording. So they're not going to be going out and paying someone 100 grand a week for 6 months or paying 19 million pounds.
Even temporarily? Would you maybe do it temporarily? Because the worst thing that happens is we know that if we go down, that Moy, Billing, Congolo, they're off. You know, they're too good. Would you then say, would we maybe bring someone in short term? Long term, we're probably going to sell these guys and it's not going to take a long term financial hit. Or is it still too much?
I said this on another pod not that long ago, before this run hit.
Is this on your BBC moonlighting?
That I'd have been tempted prior to this 9-game run, if you're talking after the side that's basically taken a good Wolves side apart live on telly. For me, at that point, you're looking at, I would have spent, obviously it's not the club, but I'd have spent 20-25 million quid on a striker.
It's easy to spend other people's
money,
money, isn't it?
But that said, you've got parachute payments again.
Yep.
And let's be fair, you spend that kind of money on a striker in January, if this 9-game losing run hasn't happened and the form's carried on decent after Wolves, and you go down, surely it's not rocket science that you've written something into his contract where he can clear off for whatever. No. And let's be fair, if you lost 5 million quid on it, it sounds easy to throw 5 million quid away. But if that
you don't get anyone for 5 million.
No, but if you bought somebody for 25 and then you've sold somebody back for 20 to get them off at books, that it's a little bit of an it, but that could have kept you up.
So one player
for that now.
One player that I wanted, Solanke was one on loan. I thought that'd be a good one. Morpay's another one. One player that I thought would be quite a good fit for us, and this is one of the reasons why the January transfer window depressed me after 2 days. And Danny, I'm going to ask you this question as well because you were quite philosophical about our summer dealings. in terms of what we did and who we brought in and why. And Tammy Abraham was a name that got linked with us, and I looked at him and thought, do you know what? He's quick. He gets between the lines. He scores goals. I look at him as a bit of a flat track bully. He scores against the poorer teams because he's stronger and quicker. But if he comes in, he's 21, 22, 18 million was the figure quoted. This was before the 120 grand a week Wolves link was pushed around. But apparently Chelsea were open to selling him for 18 million. He's going to come in on a big wage. He didn't do great at Swansea last year, admittedly. But he's proven the league below. Worst comes to worst is he does well, scores goals. You sell him in the summer if you go down. If you go down, you know you've got someone who will score goals, and strikers are a premium. He will either fire us back up or double in value potentially. Would you do that? But the thing what depressed me, and I'll go back to you now, Danny, is that we were out of the running within minutes of that link because Wolves are coming and offered 120 grand a week. And now, does this now indicate as to why we've maybe gone down the route we did in the summer rather than the links that we had in the summer for Shaqiri, which now seems daft, doesn't it, when you look at what's happened? Yeah. We were linked with players like him. Limbombe apparently wanted an absolute fortune, and I think we've dodged a bullet on him anyway. But does this now show where we're shopping, that we're perhaps shopping at Lidl and not Waitrose?
We've dodged a bullet on him, but we've hit a couple of straight
yeah.
A bit of crossfire.
Yeah.
It does, but should we have been looking at Tammy Abraham in the summer when he's ended up at Villa? We do need something, I think, for the players as well, because, I mean, they must look at, like, Depoitre missing those chances and think the same thing. It's like, I need somebody in the box who's going to finish chances like that. But, I mean, aside from that, what we've got to understand is that in training, our defenders are up against Mounier and Depoitre. They're not facing somebody quick who's fast with the feet on the floor. So how do you get that concentration out of Zanka and Schindler for coming up against somebody like that? I really think we need somebody of that, in that sort of mould, somebody different who's quick and good with it at the feet. But yeah, how do you find somebody? But
I would like to see a different type of striker. I said this in the summer. I wanted a different type of striker. I didn't expect Mounier not to be, or to be in this position, because I've liked Neil Maupay for quite a while, and he's a different type, and he reminds me a little bit, not massively, but he reminds me of the type that Robert Firmino is, in that he can drop off and he can link things, almost like Naki Wells did last year. And for me, someone like him would really help us in that final third where he drops off and people then can move off him. But we seem to have got two similar types, and you've said there that...
Yeah, I should just point out that I'm not knocking Mounier. I'm knocking Depoitre, but I'm not knocking Mounier. I'm happy
no,
with,
but you need different, don't
but
you?
You do need something different, like I say, at least for the training, because you're just coming up against them in training, and what are they offering that we're facing every week in the Premier League? It's not the same thing.
So... we're almost 25% through the window, aren't we? I would have hoped we had something lined up for the start.
That said, though, there's only 5 teams signed.
And done for Cardiff.
Yeah, I did. But we might still get that because we're recording this on a Tuesday.
It's possible that they did, and the recent run of results has just scuppered that deal. Yeah. As you say, a loan deal for a player who's going to come to a club in 16th, 17th is very different to someone coming into a club in 20th, 8 points adrift at the bottom, because they might be a top class player, but they're not going to be able to show their ability in a team that's playing as bad as we are.
And they don't want a relegation on the CV.
Exactly, yeah.
Forwards football.
When Pritchard had joined us last season in this position, I mean, we're under threat when he signed for us, but we were pretty much certainties for relegation like we are now.
No, we're down. I don't want to. Yeah. We're pretty much down, aren't we? Let's be fair.
We're a very unattractive proposition, as you said, Neil.
This is the first time I've actually openly said I think we'll go down, though. And
I've not put the bottom 7 on the agenda because
let's be honest,
I just don't see the point.
Let's be honest. Nobody, after walking out of that Wolves game, where we were absolutely top draw for 90 minutes, we've murdered them. Nobody could have foreseen this.
But somebody
signings lined up.
Somebody at our club has got to be able to sell Huddersfield Town as an attractive proposition, because we're coming down.
I think you're right, but to be fair, I think...
Is Huddersfield not more attractive than Brentford at the minute?
That's what we've got to be selling ourselves.
London, isn't it?
But surely it's Brentford. You can double his wage. You can live in Leeds and Manchester.
He might be thinking, I'm banging another 15 goals for Brentford and I get a Premiership move in the summer.
Yeah,
maybe. But if he bangs in 10 for us before now and the end of the season, he probably does as well.
Well, I think the biggest problem for me is you can't sell it.
No one's going to bang in 10. I think
you can't sell it on back in 90 feet. It's 8 points adrift.
It's difficult. This is why we've been saying we needed somebody for months, and this should have been teed up months ago with pretty much the button left to press for me.
But
I understand it's difficult.
The only options you're going to be left
teed up in the
with,
summer.
if we're being brutally honest, are either foreigners that we've already got a boatload of that just want to come and get into the Premier League anywhere but that they can, or a youngster on loan. That if we're being completely realistic, that's what you get. I
was watching Liverpool Wolves last night, and there's a young Liverpool midfielder, and if Wagner's still in charge next season, I would imagine he might be someone who they would look at. I think it was Curtis Jones he was called, so I think that's probably one that might crop up in the summer. Maybe one to watch, who knows. That's a guess, by the way. It's nothing, no inside info or anything.
Written down.
Right, so we're complaining about not signing players a little bit, or discussing that, but we actually have signed someone. So Jason Puncheon has come in, and to be honest, at first I was a little bit underwhelmed initially. But having thought about this a bit more, one of the cornerstones of our success, if you like, has been experienced players like Martin Craney, Mark Hudson, Dean Whitehead in training. And having a young side able to train, and these older players setting an example for them on the training field. They've crossed over now to the other side, if you like. And Martin Craney's obviously left the club. So having an experienced pro who's avoided relegation 3 times from the Premier League, I think it with Palace, makes a bit of sense to me, and he looks to be filling in currently for Moy until Moy's back. Do you think that's a good move? I think in isolation, if that's our only move, I think there's a few people face palming, but in isolation, is this a good move? I think I've actually started to think this is actually quite a good move.
I think it's a decent addition, to be honest. I was probably like you when I first heard it, a bit Jason Puncheon, can't get in at Palace, whatever. But
he's not going to solve our goal scoring problem. I don't think he's scored for 3 years. So
but he's not been brought in for that reason, has he?
He's clearly in to try and fill Moy's boots for however long Moy's out.
He's not in for his corners then, is he, after that one?
No. But to be fair, it's actually a strange one because Wagner's not known for throwing new signings straight in. So I think they could clearly see the need that we need to get these. And
he did all right, to be fair,
signing senior pros, which is something we've not done in the last 3 years. That's a bit sort of out of the box for Town, which again I'm happy with.
Yeah, I think one of the big failings of Town since getting promoted was the lack of Premier League experience in the squad, and you never want to go after the journeyman who's after his final paycheck, but as a lot of promoted clubs do, but. We were, there's one extreme to the other, and we were the other. We had a handful of Premier League games with the likes of Hudson and Hogg. I think Craney had played once, one time ago. I'm quite happy with the signing of Puncheon, and I was from the moment that the rumour started coming in. I've always rated him. He's definitely past his best. We wouldn't be signing him if he was still at his peak, but I think he could come in and do a decent job. And to be honest, I think it's probably been done with next season in mind, because he would be a good player at Championship level next season. So if we can give him a 4-month loan deal,
I'd have been delighted if we were chasing promotion and brought him in.
He's also one of those players that it's no risk for him this one.
He's putting himself in the window, isn't he?
Yeah, because he's out of contract end of season at Palace. He's not getting one.
This is what I was saying earlier with the striker.
He's got the chance to go and play.
And it's no risk
Premier
for
League
us.
football.
No risk
for Town, no risk for us. And if we get in another 2 or 3 of that ilk, decent window, to be honest.
I think if we go down, I know we don't like doing negative, but if we go down, it's looking likely, we will probably lose Moy and Billing unless a miracle happens, because they're quality players. Jason Puncheon there with Bakuna, O'Brien doesn't look too bad really as future succession planning either. And one thing we've done in the window is we seem to be looking at succession planning. Jayden Brown has come in from Tottenham, and I've been quite quiet on the whole academy thing. I didn't like what happened, and the recruitment for the academy looked a little bit lax for me. The players that were coming in weren't especially. We expected Billings, that were coming in, for 5-10 grand. Even Sondre Tronstad, players like that coming in to play with the development squad, and we're not really seeing anything. So I've been kind of like holding fire to see what's happening, and I'm really pleased to see that we've got an England under-19, I think he's international, or under-20 international coming through, and he's chosen to come to us instead of sign a new contract for Tottenham, and I think that's a really positive move, especially when you look at Eric Derms on a short contract. Chris Lervers, I think he's up in 12 months, I think it's 2020 it goes to, and to me that looks like a really good move, and it's good to see the club looking at long medium-term planning finally.
For next season, if we are in Championship, I'd like to see like this Dehaney, Brown, Matty Daly, Lewis O'Brien, all in and part of the first team squad. And I know I'll take Cozzy's mantle for a pod on mentioning that mob down road, but credit to them, they put in a lot of younger players, and it's working for them. And I think so. At some point, you've just got to be brave and use your own homegrown players and get them in there, and let's find out if they're good enough or not. Probably.
I think to play young players, though, you've got to have players that are good enough around them. I think that's maybe where we've fallen down in the Championship, is we've been around 18th, 19th, not struggling to stay up, and we've thrown a couple of kids in, and they've been expected, they haven't been carried through. Whereas I think other clubs who do bring them through have quality players who can carry them through and help them grow, and hopefully that's what we see going forward. So we have had Twitter reaction quite a lot with the January window, so I'll fly through some of these. We've had at HTFC Images again says, is our weakness that we don't have anyone to run and drive the ball forward like Williams and Moy at the minute? I.e., let's make an easy sideways pass or backwards is the lack of thrust, and I'd throw Van La Parra into that as well. I was just going to
mention Van La Parra, yeah.
I think we've got a player like that, and it's Billing.
Yeah,
he strides forward.
Yeah.
He makes up so much ground, and
he's fast with it as well. He's deceptively fast.
The opposition midfielders don't seem comfortable going into a challenge with him, and he does make up a lot of ground. He just doesn't do it enough because he sits in that deep lying role, pinging balls left and right. He's got some real strength moving forward. I think we're not utilising that enough. But in the wide areas, you mentioned Van La Parra, Danny. I can't believe that we've let him go out on loan. He was one of our top 3 players for me last season. Clearly something's gone on behind the scenes, which we don't necessarily know.
We can only speculate
to, but yeah, it's a real shame to see him go, and a real shame to have not seen him play this season. I'd argue we wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah, you're right on Billing. I mean, that Man United game on Boxing Day, Billing was... He wanted the ball, and he wanted the ball against world-class players like Pogba and so on, and he wanted to show what he could do. I was done that against Man City.
I was going to say, I came away from that saying, Billing versus Pogba, you can't take out the 2 Pogba goals, really, but you take that to one side, and there wasn't much difference in the performance between the two.
I've got a friend who's a season ticket holder at Man U. He's actually one of the few that lives over here but does go, and he goes all over, and he run me after the game just to have a bit of a chat about it and what have you, and he said the talk where he was sat in Stretford End were all about Billing. They're all about him, and
he's
they could see him being
notice.
their kind of player. So
yet there were still a few Town fans knocking him. Well, but I mean, he made mistakes. But the thing is,
whoppers are there.
The thing is that stood out for me is that he always wanted the ball. Yeah, he want. There were some of them against Man United who looked scared. I mean, Flo and so on. To me, they looked like they got the ball, and the first thought was, "How do I get rid of this? I get rid of this to one of my teammates." Whereas Billing was constantly showing for it. When he got it, he was composed on it. He made some mistakes, sure he did, but he was stand out for me.
He's growing.
That's why I was surprised to see him Benza get taken off at Man U, because he
was doing all right.
He was one of those on that day who was showing football and tried to get it and beat a man, and it actually all went a bit pear-shaped when Benza and Kachunga went off.
It was a strange sub, wasn't it? Was it a Benza for Lerver?
Odd, yeah.
He also follows it up with saying, has Depoitre retired himself this year?
Looks like it, doesn't it?
And do we have the right characters on the pitch, i.e. Derm's experience versus the flow? Alfie Kennedy, I'm going to throw this at you, Danny, because I know you're a fan. Pritchard, would you sell him if offered a decent amount? I think he's been extremely poor for the amount we paid for him.
In this January window, only if we could replace him with somebody, because I don't think we've got another number 10 that can play that role.
Not really, no.
I don't. He has been disappointing, but I think he's one of those few attacking threats that we've got. But yeah, he's not been great. But
We've just got to have one eye on next season, haven't we? I mean, he was so good in the Championship for Norwich. He should be able to reach those highs with us as well. I agree. I don't think he's been the player that I expected him to be since he came in. We need someone to come in and compete for him in that position. But to get rid of him and not bring in someone of equal quality for the league below would be foolish.
I think it's one of those again where we said if we don't need two defensive midfielders, and that'd help him out as well if we weren't playing with those two defensive midfielders as well as three centre backs in that Fulham game.
I'll go back to what I said in episode 4, I think it was, because I remember that because Reece was here, and so the thread's when it comes up at the top of the thing. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think he's the wrong type of player for us, and that's all. I don't think it makes him a bad player or a poor player. I just don't think his style suits us. And for me, I agree, Danny. If we could replace him, then yeah, but I don't think we could. And he works incredibly hard for his size.
He lacks the one thing that all good number 10s at this level need. He's nowhere near quick enough.
No, and he's a scuff a lot at the minute as well. But he's to be fair, he's working hard, and he's not one of our problems. It's just having a target man in front of him and no movement from out wide just doesn't suit him.
Yeah, I think if you go back to that Wolves game where he linked up so well with Mounier and the midfield, and that's where we need him. He's playing like that, but we're not playing like that, are we?
That's why it's so surprising how it's gone so wrong after such a good performance, and you can't put it all down to Aaron Moy not being in. You can't. No. Because then you are basically saying, without Moy, we might as well forget the season, and you can't do that.
We bossed that game against Newcastle without Moy. See, we have done it.
We did. But I did say before the season started, the one person that we needed backup for was Moy.
Yeah, whether he's injured or not, we wouldn't have him now anyway, would we?
That was my point in pre-season. We needed another central midfielder because Danny Williams isn't an Aaron Moy. Danny Williams is more of a Og type role, and he's always injured.
I think he's a bit in between, to be honest. Yeah, for Reading, everything went through Williams for Reading, but
we just needed to really commit to another midfielder, and
we got Bakuna, didn't we?
Put a bit of pressure on Moy, because he's pretty much, if he's fit, he's playing in it because he's simply our best player.
We've got for similar types. We've got Billing and Bakuna, but they're not. Billing can play.
Billing has been very good this season for me.
Bakuna's not his level.
Bakuna's just not. He's nowhere near this level yet for me. Nowhere near.
Ideally, he'd be out on a loan at a Championship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I think, but,
it was a bit of a bizarre decision to play.
The transfer window in the summer was lacking two big players for me: central midfielder and another striker. And I think our season's a lot different with those two signings.
I think we needed a quality player behind the striker first and foremost, and we just didn't do it for me. But we can go back over that, whatever. But so some of the final things. So Watson, Malky, both say the similar thing. Should we start planning for the Championship now? But I think we've pretty much covered that. It's a case of trying to get what we can get, isn't it, from now? Andre Nange, I think it is. Apologies if that's mispronounced. He said, is what's missing from our performance a marquee signing? Could there be a quick fix? Like I mentioned with Lallana, I know it's fantasy talk, I'm not going to sit here and say we should be signing him because it's not very feasible. But would a quick marquee signing all of a sudden lift everybody at the club, fans, players? Is it worth it?
No.
It
sounds brutal. I just think it's gone too far. I think
too far adrift.
Yeah, I genuinely, and I'm probably one of the most positive people ever in ground, but I genuinely cannot see us getting out of this and throwing now 15, 20 million at a player for this season.
But what you don't want to do is go down with this mood we've got now. Can you imagine if you finish the season with a run of
change that with it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think a lot's going to change in the summer.
Yeah,
if we go down or if we stay up, a lot's going to change. Wagner's going to leave. He's either going to leave or he'll get fired. I think be very, very surprised if that did not happen in the summer. So I think this feeling of malaise and dejection at the moment is going to lift because we're going to have a brand new manager, brand new set of coaching staff. There's probably going to be a lot of player turnover. Yeah, I know it's on the agenda, but I think this. I don't know. I think if we go down with this feeling, there'll be a huge upheaval in the summer that will change it one way or the other.
A bit like Stoke did.
Yeah. Didn't say it'd be for the better, but it'll change it.
So the final two comments about that was Colin Fronchak says, why has our recruitment of midfielders been so bad over the last 3 windows? Would Pritchard have displaced a fit Izzy Brown if we had still signed him? Should we bring back Jack Payne? We've covered Pritchard, but should we bring back Jack Payne? I think he's levels away from where we are.
I'd bring Jack Payne and O'Brien back just to scupper Bradford. Completely.
I'd bring him back.
Won't even think twice.
If he's not in our plans, say whoever wants him needs to buy him, because he's proven himself at that level now. What benefit is it to us if he does well for Bradford? Get him back. If Bradford want him, pay for him.
Yeah.
That's what I'd be doing.
Well, again, there might be one eye on next season, thinking, can he step up to the Championship? But both his loans have been at League One level.
I'd be fetching him back now.
Why is he not playing there, I guess,
Yeah, so I think a director of football, not having a director of football for 18 of the last 24 months has limited our options.
Probably the biggest time when we really needed one.
Yeah, and the last comment really on the transfers from Russ Horsfall, who just said, could you mention this in your next podcast, please? People are saying that everyone knew we needed strikers and Wagner did nothing about it, which is wrong. We all said our strikers were good enough, but they needed better service. We brought wingers, and if anyone is to blame, it's Rebbe. It doesn't like how people's expectations have changed after decades. That does remind me, actually, at the end of last season, we did say Mooney and Depoitre's chance to conversion rate was amongst the highest, wasn't it, last season in the Premier League?
I think what we'd also
which was
said
quite interesting.
There's no plan B for this, like bringing Mounier and Depoitre on together. It never worked last season, and so it would have been handy to have somebody different.
My heart sinks when
it against Burnley. I just went, oh, God.
You might as well get up and go, aren't you?
Yeah. Start the car.
So thanks Russ for that. Okay, so
and every single one of you should never forget, it doesn't count how big you are. It doesn't count how experienced you are. It doesn't count how nice you are. If you have passion, desire, you have no limits. No limits.
we'll come on to the man himself, David Wagner. We've got our friend from Spain, Cozzy, has sent us a little voice memo, which I will now have a play of.
Guys, I assure you what my views on David Wagner. This is a guy here who would have stuck with Chris Powell, as I'm often reminded by people on the Twitter. But yeah, I think we really are in a split with the town fans looking at some of the social media, especially after Saturday. One thing that kind of always struck me with David Wagner, and it kind of brought it home to me on Sunday when I was just driving on Leeds Road just after coming back from Bristol. Them signs that, them things on a lamppost that probably could need to be taken down. We have no limits. We are fearless, I think one of them says. And I couldn't think that the last three games could be, it's total polar opposite to that. I just feel we've lost his identity. And I think the worrying thing for me is, can we get it back? I mean, we've got to be honest, a lot of the games this year, to me, has been a lot better than last year, despite us obviously only scoring 12 league goals. But the last three, obviously, we've lost 9 in a row, 8 in a row in the league, which is incredible, really, when Huddersfield have been going since 1908. So let's not put it in perspective, it's a terrible stat. But I've always kind of, spotted the guy, and let me assure you that you'll never see a post from me, Wagner out, or a comment really, Wagner out. I think he's earned the right, but he's got to change things, and pretty quick. I thought, Saturday was so worrying for me. The lack of energy, the lack of effort. That's something that his teams have been built on. The terrier spirit, as we keep hearing, the pressing game. There was absolutely nothing. At the Fulham, I didn't get where we were going in that game. I think we tried to fudge a draw and nick something on the break. Rubbish. Fulham were there for the taking. There were fear in their eyes. But Ranieri decided to do something at half-time, And that for me was the difference in that game. Ranieri went for it. Brought Sessegnon on, went for the win. What were we doing there? We were trying to get a point. That were no good to us. We need wins. In the Burnley game, maybe we've got the get out with Schindler's Red. But I think that summed us all up at the moment for me, mate. I just think, with 8 minutes we've scored a great goal to conceding to being with 10 men. There were nothing more certain, Burnley, that they were going to find a way of winning. They pushed us back and back and back. They came to win. Burnley, they had to win. It was such a must-win game in the same way it was for Fulham. And that was a gutting thing for me. Saturday were awful. There were guys playing for Chelsea. It looked like to me some of the guys, you know, kind of didn't want to do the hard yards. You know, Puncheon were threading balls through. I mean, De Potter's first half, I thought De Potter, you know, Arsenal at Man United, he was good. Obviously not scoring the goal, but the effort and things, but that were gone. And I looked at Wagner kind of about 10 minutes to go and I just thought, he just looked a full-on man, to be honest with you. I suppose you would be when you've lost so many games. His arms were folded. And if anyone was, you know, kind of animated, it was Christopher Bueller. If anyone's seen the Fulham goal, you know, Neil Silver and Bueller's going absolutely mental. Looks like with Zanka, to be honest, who's been awful. I mean, a lot of his players are letting down, but yeah, the last 3 games, to me, if you were kind of saying, would you keep him or would you move him on, or kind of would you shake hands all parties? I just think, yeah. I mean, Dean's obviously backed himself into a corner a little bit with his, you know, comments. David Wagner's going to be with us if we go down, etc. But I just don't know how we can be if the next 17 games are so big. I mean, I think most of us are accepting that we're probably going to play in Championship next season, but we just can't. We need something. We need that old fire back. Can he get that fire back? Can we get that identity back? You know, what would we change? We were trying to dissect it in the car. One of the guys was saying, and obviously, you know, David Wagner, you know, if I was kind of maybe the chief exec, the head on, she'll have to kind of say, no, David, what you're doing now is not working. How are you going to change it? How are you going to change it? I'd be kind of look her in the eye. Because at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any signs of anything changing, and that as well. It's the same old. I mean, the football's so boring. That doesn't help, really. You know, across the back, slow passing, nothing really, you know, coming forward. 12 goals all season in the league, just awful. And if you look at the games to come, Cardiff, you know, they play that kind of football we do, to be honest, last season. They'll be up for it. You know, Saturday will tell us so much, I think, about, you know, where we can go, really. Because obviously we've got, I think, is it Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal next 3, I don't know in that order, but obviously I'm dodging the question out of here. Would you keep him, would you not? I'm always been a, you know, somebody who supports people, never would kind of call for heads, but the last 3 games, the evidence is really damning. You know, how long do you let it drift? And yeah, it'd be interesting, because I just can't see David Wagner being allowed to kind of keep trying to take us back up if we do go down. If, say, in the next 17 games we lose 12 and win 1 and draw 3, it did feel a little bit on Saturday that maybe he is the, I don't say it, but you know what I'm trying to say, guys, don't you? But what's he got to change? It always feels like to me we're carrying the defensive player too many. I mean, the lads in the car were saying they'd take Jonathan out because he brings nothing going forward. I get that. It's almost like we're protective, you know, protecting the back, the centre backs with having our game, but you know, Bakuna, do you put, you know, Billing in more? I don't know. But yeah, you know, we can go on. You know, Rebba's getting the stick. Nowhere to be seen, is it? To be fair, we obviously had the last 2 directors of football coming doing Q&As and stuff on Radio Leeds. This guy, where is he? I'd love to know the truth about the summer recruitment. It feels like he's been shafted as that, David. But yeah. What would you change? I'd leave it to probably you guys with formation, but I look around at the options, the guys. If that were guys wanting a shirt on Saturday, there were no one apart from Jason Puncheon. The rest, they're pathetic, really. And yeah, it's grim. Sorry to be so down, but yeah, you've got to be honest. The last 3 games, there doesn't look like there's any sign it's going to get better anytime soon. But from a guy who's given me some of the best times, well, the best times of my life watching Huddersfield Town, there's no way I'm gonna, you know, press the button. But Dean's made these big decisions before, Lee Clark, etc. Nothing would surprise you in football. But yeah, that's my opinion, guys. I haven't given one really, but just my thoughts.
Really enjoyed that.
Okay, so Cozzy sounds like he's Wagner in. For me, David Wagner's given us 2 years of amazing success through his enthusiasm, you know, great man management, tactical awareness, and it's all come from his own little black book of contacts. He even pretty much shifted 15,000 season tickets by himself through his own little cliches and did the marketing team's job for them. Went in 2016. He's turned down the opportunity to go to Aston Villa, Wolfsburg, which ironically Olaf Rebbe was trying to get him for. And their resources would completely dwarf ours. He knows what he seems to happily work within our framework. He also apparently, according to murmurs in the paper, he turned down Leicester as well, or he was in the frame for Leicester and wasn't interested. For me, he showed us a lot of loyalty when it could have been really easy for him to jump and keep his momentum and his profile going. And I just feel that he's a bit of a victim of his own success in that he's moved the football club too far forward and out of its comfort zone in a really short space of time. And now his little black book's exhausted. We're finding that the infrastructure of the club cannot support what he maybe needs to do. And that just goes down to budgets, scouting, networks, etc., etc. And it's nobody's fault as such. It's just that he's moved the club so far forward that the club's not been able to keep up, behind the scenes. We've got a training, top of the art training system coming, but that can't be built in overnight, in a couple of months. You obviously need your planning permission and everything. And the club are trying to catch up, but as it stands at the minute, I don't think he's got the resources to do the job properly. And we've probably got the lowest budget, training facilities, scouting, etc. in the league. Maybe Cardiff, possibly, but they've been in the Premier League before and owned by someone who's a billionaire. And the main issue is he's performed 2 absolute miracles, and after those miracles, he's now starting to look a bit of a broken man at times. He's starting to get a bit ratty in post-match interviews, and he's very very, very different. But for me, he's earned the right to try and turn this around, and I think he's also earned the trust and support to be able to do that and attempt to do that. With players looking bereft in confidence, and as he does himself, I think the question is, does he want to continue? Does he want to stay with us if we go down? Does he want to stay with us now? And if his answer is yes, he wants to stay at Huddersfield Town, then for me he stays. But he must be supported completely with everything that he needs, or everything that he feels that he needs to be able to do the job. Because there can be absolutely no half measures, no shortcuts, no doing things on the cheap or trying to be clever. His job is impossible if he doesn't get what he needs from now. And the problem he's got is that some supporters have started turning. Some of the players look like they've turned as well. And all it takes is another 5-6 games on the bounce, and all of a sudden things are starting to look a bit difficult. But for me, he stays. I'm Wagner in, but the club need to support him in everything that he needs to do, and that includes what I mentioned before about January. If it can't support him, then it's probably not going to end well.
I agree with all that. The end.
Yeah, I'm same. I mean, I'm just thinking the only way I could see him leaving at the moment is if he decides he can no longer either he doesn't want to be here next season, and he says I'm going to walk away now because that'll be for the best for the club. But I wouldn't sack him.
I'd be devastated. Can you imagine having to sack that man?
That's the only conversation that they can have regarding Wagner leaving. For me, it's not a case of getting Wagner in to tell him he's sacked. The only conversation having with Wagner at the moment is, do you see yourself being here for next season, regardless of what division we're in? If the answer to that is 100% yes, you just crack on and let him crack on. But as you say, Matt, you've then got to back him to the hilt with everything that he needs to do.
I trust the chairman will do that. Yeah,
I do. And he's like you say, he's a victim of his own success. He came in and took over a team that was, frankly, destined for League One. We were on a downward trajectory. It was grim. Everything about the place was awful. Everyone was... Well, it was just a depressing place to go, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he's literally grabbed it and he's taken it on this ridiculous journey. Nobody could have foreseen that when he took over, after Powell was sacked, after a draw at Reading, and then Wagner came in after the game that we lost at home to Leeds, didn't he? Nobody could have foreseen then that put it another way. After that Leeds game, when he gets announced, would anybody who supports Town, if somebody said to him, in 3 years' time, you're going to have seen a promotion, you're going to have stayed up in Premier League, and then you're going to be rooted to the bottom of Premier League, what do you reckon? You'd have all snapped the hand off.
Yeah.
So for what he's done from a team that was absolutely doomed, desperate, dismal, he's grabbed us, he's took us on this ridiculous journey, and the least he deserves now is us backing him. My only caveat to that is that something needs to change on the pitch at the moment. It needs to start being a bit more old Wagner style, a bit more up and at 'em.
Yeah, and I think if you go back those 2.5, 3 years and you ask those fans, how would you like the club to approach things if we did get up there? They'd want the sustainability. They'd want the Burnley approach of keeping Sean Dyche through promotions and relegations and promotions again. And for to answer the question that's going around, I'm Wagnering as well. My only fear is that he's done the job. He's done more than the job that he was brought in to do. He's got us promoted in his first, full season, and obviously it's not looking too good at the moment. The fear for me is that if we go back down and we're not in the top 2 by Christmas, or even in the playoffs by Christmas, which is a distinct possibility, we might resume our fairly natural position, which is a mid-table to top 10 championship club. If you played 1,000 seasons of football, that's probably roughly where we'd be. My fear is if we're in that position after 4 or 5 months of the season, fans won't be happy. Not all the fans, but there'll be a big bunch of fans who are just not happy.
As Dean Hoyle calls it, the vocal minority, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Wagner will be thinking, can I be bothered with that? Or maybe I'll be off back to Germany and try and do a new project.
Notice of it, to be honest. I'm not sure this type will take much notice of what's going on in social media world, etc.
He's not on it, is he?
Nah.
And by the way, if you're atting his daughter, his 17, 18-year-old daughter with abuse, you're an absolute knob.
Yeah.
The end.
I've not seen that, so.
I saw something and I revolted.
Just don't.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Was that your statement?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, one of the things I've been saying over the past few weeks to sort of my friends is I compare us quite a lot to Leicester when they won the Premier League. They brought Ranieri in, and he surpassed all levels of expectation.
Yeah.
And the following season, I don't know if they were rock bottom, but they were in the relegation zone,
yeah,
or hurtling towards it, and they got rid of him. And that was probably the right decision for the club at the time. There was a level of sentimentality, but at that point they thought, we can't afford to get relegated. We got to get rid of the guy who's given us the Premier League title, bizarrely, only 6 months previous. And it's very difficult because a lot of people outside town will compare us in that similar way, and we're like, well, should we be getting rid of Wagner? He's delivered us something beyond our wildest dreams, but he's taken us back down to where we don't necessarily want to be.
Level, Wagner's delivered equivalent, hasn't he?
Yeah,
I would also say that every club last year that got relegated sacked their manager and thought the grass was greener, and it wasn't.
And Stoke of today sacked another one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I fully understand why people are annoyed. Losing 9 games in a row in any league is not fun. And people are always going to enjoy the ride, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But losing 9 games at any level, especially in a magnified goldfish bowl like the Premier League, it's painful. I understand people who lash out and aren't happy, and I understand people say that the Wagner situation is not similar to Dyche, Jamie, because this is something I've picked up from Twitter and I can't remember who said it. And they said at no point was Dyche, on a 9-game losing run, and Burnley were always in a fight of staying up, so there was never that malaise and that lack of momentum. So their team was pretty much close to staying up, and it allowed them to bounce back. If we don't win another game to the end of the season, he's gonna.
News.
Who can't look at what's happening at the fantastic media stand end. Moy with the penalty. It's saved. Quana scores with the rebound. Colin Quana following up the penalty. Slides it in from a narrow angle. Bring the moment, Colin.
Go on, who have we signed?
We haven't.
Oh, not Adam Lallana then.
Colin Quana has joined Ipswich Town on loan for the rest of this season.
That was rumoured, wasn't it?
We're having a minute's silence.
Colin Quana.
For who? Quana
Ipswich.
or Ipswich?
They're still having it. It's now an 18-month silence at Hillsborough.
Good luck, Colin Quaner. I don't think you'll come across many more genuinely nice footballers than Colin. And my abiding memory of Colin isn't Hillsborough. It's at Wembley where he smashes himself in the head with his own medal. There's a lot to love about Colin.
What about him running full length of the Kilner Bank after getting the winner against Preston?
Brilliant,
that was
absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that's one of my favourite moments.
They're the moments, aren't they? And that's all down to, well, not all down to one man, but predominantly down to one man.
90%.
And I think if Town fans are now, I get what you're saying, Matt, about some fans, and I agree that.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
No, I get it. I totally understand it.
I'm trying to portray both sides.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's right to do that. But for me, if it just sends out wrong message if we sack him. The first sign of trouble, we've had no but success, ridiculous success if we're being honest. And I know the stats over the last 12 months have been pretty dreadful, but the trajectory that we went on was so quick. Like you said before, Matt, the club has struggled to keep up behind that, and without spending absolute fortunes, there's no way you can catch up that quick. You just can't. And at some point, this trajectory had to level out and then fall off. It had to. It's just natural for it to do that. But nobody can take away having a great year last year. The promotion season don't get any better than that. Just absolute class. So he's still got my backing, but the attitude on the pitch does need to change.
I was just trying to find a quote that we got sent on Twitter by, I think it's Michael Foster. I can't get it at the minute, but he says, you know, he's been getting some stick for his opinion of Wagner in, and he equates the Huddersfield Town job to like trying to duct tape the Titanic, and I thought that was quite a good analogy. I enjoyed that, so thanks for that, Michael. So thank you for the questions that came in. So Michael Casey was one who sent it in, who said, what should we do about David Wagner? Will he walk if we lose, etc.? And Terrier Pete Green as well, who said, now that the dust has settled after 2 weeks, we need to ask him whether he's going to be here next season, which is something that we've been saying for a few weeks as well, Danny, haven't we? In our little cliquey group chat, which we can add you in now, James. Regular, yeah.
Yeah, that was key. Whether he's committed and he wants to be here next season, but if he's not, I don't know. What do you bring somebody into this situation for next season? I don't know if you can do that or not. I don't know if that's helpful to bring somebody in now.
It gives them more time to look,
season.
Doesn't it? And two windows, but
you bring somebody in now for next season and they lose a load of games. The fans are going to want him out before he's even had a chance to do anything.
What I would say is, if David Wagner walked now, who do the Stoke fans want, to get them promoted?
Absolutely.
We've got the man. We just need to give him the tools. For me,
yeah, you're right. If Wagner got sacked now or left now, nailed on, somebody in the Championship would be throwing pots at him.
They would say, "Look at the job he's done at Huddersfield."
Yeah, nailed on.
They would, honestly. So thanks for everybody who's come in, and I'll read out some Twitter comments because I quoted Michael and said we'll discuss this on the pod tonight. It'd be great to know what everybody thinks, and I like to try and read out what people have said. Elliot Wheatboy said, I think it's reaching the stage where we need an announcement either stating that he'll be here next season or that he's going. I can't imagine the uncertainty surrounding that is helping things out. I don't like announcements for stuff like that, but I understand what it means.
To that.
Yeah.
I don't think he can commit to saying I'm going to be here next season.
Things that can happen, isn't there?
Shouldn't be needed.
Dean Hoyle has stated very clearly that Wagner would not be sacked under any circumstances this season.
That was last season, though, wasn't it?
That was earlier this season.
Okay.
He has stated
I thought it was last
that
season
as a fact.
This season.
So, to be fair, the announcement's already been made. So there's nothing else to announce.
Maybe someone like Danny has got more followers, just needs to retweet that. See if it gets round. So Matt Roberts says, if we really believe in him, we back him all the way. He's earned it. Let's not forget who we are and where we've come from. As you can hear, Matt, we're all with you on that one. John B-Max says, is it me or is there a similarity in David Wagner and Ian Greaves' experience of managing Town in the top division? And I did think about this the other day. We went down with a bit of a whimper in our second season in, I think it's 71 or 72. And he says back in the 70s, players began positioning themselves for exit, such as Cherry Elm and Worthington. And I think they asked for money to stay, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I think they all ended up going.
So there was a group of 3 or 4 that went to the chairman.
And Doug Thompson's actually said something which is quite pertinent, which is the fans began to disappear as well. So that's the sign. I think a good sign of how well we've done in the Premier League will be how many fans we retain if the worst comes to worst.
And I didn't go to Burnley, so you can look at me for that one.
I'm going to start
Already
dragging
lost
you,
one.
Danny. It was Michael Foster, at Michael Foster 93, says, I got shut down for my opinion the other day for everything that he's done for us. I feel we owe Wagner the right to walk away if he wants to stay and see it through. The problems are higher up than Wagner, and you can't duct tape the Titanic, which I thought was a great tweet, so thanks for that, Michael. Haircut Club Neil, Eddie Hoyle's been in touch, and he says, in my opinion, he has to stay. He deserves and has earned for Town to be loyal to him. He's the man I want to attempt to bring us back up as long as he's hungry to do so. He's not looking or talking like his old self. Need the fight and hunger back. We need to get Eddie on the pod. He says the same thing as us. Or maybe that's not a good thing.
No.
One man that usually doesn't say the same thing as us is our mate Dale Marsden. And this made me laugh, actually, because he's been quite Wagner out, hasn't he? And he's just pretty much said, I've done a full U-turn now and I've accepted relegation. Stick with the man who gave us our best ever championship. Didn't feel he was the man to keep us up whilst we had a chance. But if he does a runner in the summer, I'd be livid. And if Dale can change his mind, anyone can. So, it's not all lost. We love you, mate.
But that's going to come out and actually say that, though, to be fair.
Do you know, there's a lot of people who stick by what they say through...
Yeah, just because they've said it, they don't want to be seen to be going back on it.
Exactly, so fair play, mate. Carl Hammer says he's the same as well as Dale at the moment. He's more out than in. I don't know what that means. Because I don't think we'll get the old Wagner back, which is fine. Coxey, 81, says, I think it all depends on his plans. Again, so there's quite a few people saying that. Jared Mulligan retweeted something for Jared, who's doing some work for charity. So at Jared Mulligan, have a check of that. He says, let's be honest, we were going to get relegated at some point. Let's do it with class, dignity and respect. There's a wink there, I think. Or a nod at someone. John Lamb says, I think we're all thinking it. What's best for him? What's best for the club? A win would change the mood, which is completely true. And even if it doesn't, the end result will come in May. Colin Fronchak is back. I think that's Polish hippie's son, I think. Colin Fronchak. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Wagner has earned his right to leave on his own terms, the caveat being that he can't repeat Ian Greaves' feat of taking us down to the 3rd tier. I suspect he'll leave for the Hoffenheim job anyway. It's important the board have possible names in mind for when he does go. If he does go, you would probably look at Slavisa Jukanovic straight away, but I don't think he'll be available for very long. But we shall see. And Neil, we've even had a Leeds fan being in touch, believe it or not.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think it's in reply to one of his mates. But Phil Lawton, who's not a Leeds fan, let's not get that mixed up, says, I can't believe we're even discussing this. Wagner has said that our supporters are intelligent and know our situation. I'm not going to read out the rest of that, but he's not impressed with some of the comments. John Smith at Cup Late Cake says, absolutely stay with Wagner. Sales of Moy, Billing, Congolo, Zanka, Mounier, Pritchard, Schindler would bring good money with parachute payments, but would also leave us with a strong team to challenge once again. And he's lined up the team, and he said the same things as you, Neil, about Matty Daly, top prospect. You can even have the Kachunga and Smith link back down the right hand side, which really worked at that level as well. And O'Brien, just to pee off Bradford, we'll say. And then to finish it off, Mike Fish says he should have been sacked after the Newcastle game. I think you're in the minority with us, Mike, but appreciate the view. And Big Elbow Alan Lee 19 says he feels he deserves his chance given what he's done for us, and he's already shown the club his loyalty. I also feel he would walk away if he felt he couldn't do much more. Praying it turns around for him, as the man's a living legend. I think that says everything for the bottom line. And even the Leeds fan hasn't taken a chance to slate us or mention Dogs, which is quite strange. He even says, buy a decent striker and who knows, you might stay up. So I'm not sure where that's going. It feels like a ruse.
Who'd be in Steve Simonson's boots now? He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted to the Championship.
Okay. 9 games in a row. Enjoy the ride. Does that sit well with you, Neil, where a lot of fans are kind of saying just sit back, enjoy the ride. What will be, will be.
No.
Because
and that probably contradicts everything that I've just said about Wagner and whatever else.
But like I say,
I did caveat that.
There's no joy in losing.
No, it needs to change on the pitch. It needs to go back to the sort of in-your-face, full throttle, ratting about teams, make it uncomfortable for them, because at the moment we're far too easy to play against. We are soft, we're wide open, there's no intensity, there's no drive, there's no bite. Everything that got us where we are has disappeared. And that needs to come back, and there's only one man can sort that out.
Yeah, though it's come on the back of what Cozzy says quite a lot about, just enjoy the ride. And Allen Lee 19 wants us to talk about it. He says, looking back over the last few weeks, it's amazing how much of an impact football has on people's lives, myself included. It's great escapism, isn't it, football and
that's
podcasting.
what it usually is, but I mean, that's why.
And walking the dog's apparently greater escapism, isn't it?
I knew that going to that Burnley game, I actually thought we'd get a draw out of it, but I thought there's something that's just going to annoy me. And I felt myself after that Southampton game, and I thought, I'm like, this is making me angry. Even during the Wadsworth Theatre when we went down, and that was worse football, obviously, but it was sort of escapism.
He was useless. You knew he was useless.
The thing is, you could get angry there, but there's like a certain Boxing Day against Man United, like you said, you just got to accept that, and that's not enjoyable. Just accepting it, because you do. It's like I'm still saying Wagner in, even though I'm not enjoying it. But I don't like just accepting the fact that we can't compete. And
the only thing that we've done wrong, when we came up, it was all about being the little dog and whatever else, and being up against it and using that.
Yeah,
and that were used in a sort of positive way in Championship. Yeah. But since we've come up, it's all about being humble. And without being harsh, bollocks to being humble. We're in Premier League now. Bournemouth are here with 10,000 every week, and they're managing to survive. I know they're spending lots of money, but I don't buy into all this being humble stuff. I think there's a difference between doing things the right way as a football club and being respectful. But I think when it comes to the actual football itself, it changes. That's different. On the pitch, it's not about being respectful and humble. It's about getting stuck in and showing your personality on the pitch and showing what you're all about and fighting.
Yeah, I think.
And we've lost that a bit.
I mean, frankly, we've no to lose now, have we? I mean, what are we, 8 points adrift? We need to win games. Drawing games is no good. So there's no point setting up with 3 centre-backs, 2 wing-backs and 2 defences. It's useless. We need to win games. So
that Fulham lineup's been a bit of a one-off, but that was...
But,
I don't want to see that again.
Forward,
don't want to see it again.
You'd like to think that the shackles will be off a little bit, and there's no other way to go about it.
I've been saying this all season.
We've got to go about it that way.
I've been saying this all season, Jamie. I think the handbrake is on because when we do commit fit people forward, we just get ripped to bits through the middle.
But we're getting ripped to bits anyway.
I think that fear factor though is just overriding everything that they do.
Yeah. Those first few weeks of Premier League football were fantastic. You know, those and then people will still go back to that Tottenham game. But I wish Wagner had never said that. In the same way at the start of this season, I wish nobody at the club had said the season starts now. That's something that the fans were saying. Yeah. That I don't know. There's somebody official at the club then repeated it. And nobody in an official capacity should have been saying that.
We talked about that on the podcast.
As you say, Neil.
And we were incredulous that someone had actually said it.
Yeah.
And as you say, Neil, there should be no free hits in the Premier League.
There's no such thing. No. There's 3 points at stake. And at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, whether you're playing Cardiff or you're playing Liverpool, there's 3 points at stake. And if you look around the league now, you look at Brighton's results over the last couple of years. They've beaten or drawn against some at top sides a lot. We've done it. We beat Man U, and then we got the 2 draws against Man City and Chelsea. But those alone tell you that...
we wanted that as well, didn't we?
Exactly, but why is that game different to any game this season? There's still points at stake. There's still something to be fought for. And getting a point at Man City or Chelsea, I mean, we'll play Chelsea in a few weeks, getting a point there in February, although the feeling on the day is different, is no different to getting a point when we desperately needed it on last game. I
think you can play teams at good times, and I don't think we've played many teams at good times this season. Last year we maybe got a few, like Crystal Palace on the first game was a great time.
Yeah, maybe. But the points are still there to be won, regardless of who the opposition is. And I think it's almost set in stone now that if they're a top side... Well, let's be honest, as it stands now, there's 19 better teams than us in that Premier League. And that's a fact, we're that far behind. So, free hits.
No such thing.
Nah. utter rubbish.
He finishes Alan Lee 19 finishes that with. He says we've not been relegated as a football club for 15 years, which is good. And he said he would rather be a club like that who bounces around than somebody like Spurs. I'm not sure Spurs is probably the best example, but somebody like Spurs who sit in the middle and never go anywhere.
Saying, though.
Yeah,
I
understand completely.
For me, though, is that coming back up, knowing what the Premier League's like, would not be anywhere.
It won't be the same.
It's just going to be the same all over again, or what?
You'll never top. Even if we do well in the Premier League, you will never top 2016.
No, because that's what. If you do well in Championship again now, that's all about the fight to get into playoffs or whatever else.
Do you
and the
remember?
Thrill of those, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Do you remember though,
prize
Neil,
at the end
when we lost, when Fulham were in the playoffs, and there were Fulham fans saying, "I hope we get to the final and lose."
Yeah.
And then Reading fans afterwards were just like, "Meh."
Yeah, Reading
we
fans
lost,
some
and we were like, "Are you mad? This is amazing." But I get it. Getting to the Premier League is far better than being in the Premier League.
I saw a Fulham fan the other day on Twitter, just basically saying, "Just relegate us now."
I see a lot of Huddersfield fans.
I don't like it. I don't
Liquidate
like
though
it.
as well.
I'm done with it. It's all wrong. We've spent money where we shouldn't be spending it. Just get me back to the Championship now. I hate the Premier League.
I do. I hate
David
it. I
Wagner
hate
say
it. I
that
don't like it.
last match.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's just a big. We don't swear on the pod, do we? But it's just a big peeing contest, isn't it? Who can throw the most money around? And to be honest, 2 days of the transfer windows opened my eyes and gone, do you know what? If you don't have a billionaire owner like Bournemouth have, bankrolling you, then
forget it.
Forget it. Yeah. It's impossible. But I would rather have it sounds a bit cheesy, but I would rather have a club with heart and soul and somebody like Dean Hoyle in charge than a petrochemical billionaire who uses you as a tax break.
It's like
I'd have one behind Dean Hoyle. That'd be great.
yeah.
But I'd rather have the man who we've got.
Ball goes over the byline. Kachunga leaves it. Smith scores for Huddersfield Town. 3-2 Town. Kachunga left it. And it's Tommy Smith, the skipper, who's drilled in surely one of the most important goals of the Huddersfield Town season.
Anyway, the best of the rest of Twitter. So at Bilbo Barney Bobs, I think it says. Lee Robinson says, Neil, what about the state of the coffee though?
Well, it's naff, isn't it? It's actually nice coffee, but it's in a filter cup, innit?
Are we not?
It's filter coffee with a filter lid. So as soon as you try and put milk in that, it's straight up over the lid. It's pointless.
I still don't really buy anything from behind the stalls. It's supposed to be a Michelin star company who do it now. Is it improved or? I don't really buy stuff.
Michelin star. I think they're buying.
My missus would have a fit if I bought a pie for £3.50. She's in B&M every other week.
Everything in there that they sell, the pies is naff. It's completely naff.
I'm in the White Rose, so I've no idea what you peasants are taking.
3 course.
See, he's living the Premier League dream.
I know, it's proper.
After all that,
I
don't like Premier League. I'm White Rose, isn't it? Every week,
quaffing his salmon
and
cheese bagels and.
It's that little bit of the
Pinot
Premier League
Grigio.
in the Championship that I get when I'm in White Rose, though. That's why I'm not thrilled by the Premier League.
Does Rambo still run up and do his thing?
He does, yeah. He does with the,
I've been in a few times. It is quite good in there, to be fair, but I like it outside. I like being cold.
Well, you see, I like the contrast between home and away games, but that's my problem with the Premier League, is that away games are such a pain to get tickets for and organise. Now,
with people all over the place.
That's the big thing for me, because I can't sit with who I want to sit with for the big games.
You can sit with me and Neil. We're quite high up, but I don't know if that's a case of whether you'd want to.
I've just seen it today. I can actually get a ticket for Chelsea free.
Okay, nice.
How's that? Might go.
Does anyone want it?
How's that happened?
Because they do. Class as ambulant disabled are. So, and you always get one free anyway.
Oh, you get a carer, don't you?
Yeah, but it's both free for Chelsea.
Really? Going to the lowest bidder.
I'll tell you what, I'll wheel you in if you want.
Might do Chelsea.
In that heated massage chair, see if you can roll it through.
Yeah, if we're going, I'm taking chair.
They pick up minority groups that Chelsea fans are. That's why getting you free when I watch it.
That's why, yeah. I'll be sat somewhere in for an half-time pie throwing contest or something, won't there?
It'd be one of those water ones where you have to hit the bullseye and you go into the tank of water. But
couldn't miss me, could they?
Scott Bradley, I like Scott.
Scott's
funny guy. I still remember going down to Bournemouth with him and he had a bottle of Southern Belle. I've got no idea what that was, but he was absolutely wasted after 30 minutes. Brilliant. Great lad.
Yeah, he is.
He said, decent boozers, old and new around town, or does it have to be football related? I think we need Cozzy for this. Because you know, I'm going to get hate for this, but I live in Leeds and go out in Leeds. But football, I do sometimes foray, if you like, at Huddersfield. Magic Rock's great if you go to Magic Rock. Last time we were in Huddersfield for the Fulham game, got the train over and went out. I thought Vox was all right.
I can't remember last time I went out Huddersfield.
That's my away game thing.
It's all on you, is this, Jamie?
I live in Leeds as well.
Oh, we're all chesties over here.
Yeah.
Right, so last question on that. Is the new badge cursed? From Alan Lee 19. Cosy, we need him again for this
I'm
one.
just going to say yes. Get rid of it.
Quite clearly.
Cosy detests that badge.
Yeah, he does. And he did from minute one.
He did.
I have no strong feelings.
I have no strong feelings.
Yeah.
One of my favourite...
I didn't care if I ate it. Now.
One of my favourite football badges is because it's so basic but really good from a marketing point of view is Wolves. I like the Wolves. I think that's great. It's just a load of it's a load of triangles. That's all it is.
Like you said before,
get the shield
badge
off.
back off.
Hate that shield.
And get that shield business that's around it with all stars and stuff. Get rid of all that. Just have the town crest.
Johnny, who does a lot of our design work, kind of redid. I know Danny does it as well, but Johnny does some of the more graphical work. Did a mock-up town badge, and he just refreshed the terrier a bit and stuff, and it was pretty good. I might tweet that out, but I thought that was slightly better.
Do we reckon it'll be back to normal?
They said when we released it, they said it was only a year.
Did they definitely? Yeah. Right, yeah.
They said it was only
the Chinese market's out strong in the championship, so that'll get dropped.
There was
the year of the dog is gone.
There was a really good article on Swiss Ramble. I was going to mention this, but I didn't have enough time to research it. But Swiss Ramble have released a lot of data surrounding how much money championship clubs spend away, which is quite interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see where we sit after 2 years in the Premier League. Where do we sit now in there? Because pretty much Dean Hoyle propped us up for years with 5-6 million a year. And does he want to still be doing that, or does the commercial activity need to be better? But anyway, we'll probably cover that next week because I haven't had time to look into it.
Moy. Oh, where's he going to drop? Heffel is in there!
Cardiff away. Jamie, you're going?
Yeah. God knows why.
Are you driving?
I've got a friend who is a Swindon fan, and he's been to a few town games in the past, but never won in the Premier League, so we've had this one earmarked for a few months. So yeah, I'm driving down to Oxford on Friday, and then back to Leeds on Sunday.
Is it going to be 10 in a row, or do you reckon we might be able to stop that?
I think it'll be 10 in a row. They're very strong at home, and they've just got that. They've got that edge.
It's Warnock in it.
Yeah,
they've got probably the same mentality that we had last year.
We're going to draw. I mean, what has it come to when I'm the positive
one? Hang on.
Yeah, I did say
we'd draw. Somebody wailing the real Danny G.
We're going to draw.
I'd be happy with a draw. It'd be a start.
I think it's useless at this stage.
I'll be honest.
It is, but it'd be
against the likes of Cardiff.
It is in terms of survival, but in terms of just halting that blooming run.
Yeah, just need someone to stop that run. But when you look at
to what end?
All I have read that somebody we win on average one game every 11.
All right, so we're due.
Man City, this is game 10.
This is the 10th.
So I can't wait for Man City at home.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Live on Sky, man. We're beating Man City at home.
Because if we don't beat Cardiff, Chris Green sent us a message which says the record for the most consecutive defeats. This is one for you to stew over. And the record for most consecutive defeats in Premier League history is 15. Sunderland.
So we've got Cardiff.
If we don't get
Man
points
City,
against Cardiff,
Everton, Arsenal, and Chelsea. And
Sunderland.
That'd be 14. What's 15th?
Sunderland are the club associated with a record. Do you reckon we can stop that, or do you reckon we'll make a meal out of it?
Well, I've said I think we'll stop that by getting a draw at Cardiff. But
15 would mean we'd have to lose to Cardiff, Man City, Everton, Chelsea, Arsenal, and then the record equaling would be Newcastle.
When did Sky pick that Man City?
And I think Newcastle probably let us win because they'd like Sunderland to keep that record.
Who wants to watch that?
People like watching Man City. People want to see a team hit double figures.
Yes, so hopefully we'll go there. So I think that's pretty much all we've got for this week. We do have a new Facebook account, so if you want to have a look at us on there, so Facebook, Danny's a big Facebooker.
Oh, yeah.
Cos running our Instagram account as well, so you might see a few fancy pictures.
Will it have cats on it?
I don't know. I don't really
Are you
look.
putting your cat on? No.
I think everything on Instagram's cat.
I could stick my cat on.
Yeah.
I could show him more of a cat.
Do the
person than
next
a dog
one at the
person.
cat cafe, Matt.
I'd rather not.
No.
I want to eat my sandwiches. So that leaves nothing else but for Cozzy's replacement to sing us out with a nice little tune. And I wish I could see his face right now.
Wasn't prepared for this, so I'll press the button.
Right, so thanks for listening, and we'll hopefully be back again next week, and hopefully not celebrating or commiserating in defeat number 10.
And if he scores from this, they are through to the final. Huddersfield are there. Darren Bullock is the...
Puncheon, Jepson's there, Billy's in. A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life. Barnes with the flick, Johnson with the turn, Johnson with the goal. And the game turned on its head.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Hoopy and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted to the Championship.
Pate's got a chance, and he scores! Jack Pate scores!
Oh, he's going to chase the keeper down, he's tried it down! He's scored! Nicholas just scored for the most bizarre goal you'll ever see!
Oh, where's he going to drop? Heffer's in there!
Ball goes over the byline, Kachunga leads it, Smith scores for Huddersfield Town! 3-2 Town! All three challenge stands. Forrest Sherry, Danny Ward saves! Danny Ward saves! Here's Mounier, 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League. Lindelof misses his header, De Quattro's in, round De Gea, 2-0 Huddersfield Town!
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend.